Hey everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we're going to be playing some Historic Brawl with one of the new March of the Machine Aftermath commanders, Pia Nalaar, Consul of Revival. She's a red and a white for a legendary human artificer, giving all of our Thopters haste, and giving us a Thopter every time we play a land from exile or cast a spell from exile. So she's a very cool, very unique commander that does not play out exactly like any other commander in the game, really. Kind of the only one that we have really focused on casting a bunch of stuff from exile on Arena. So we have a lot of red impulsive draw spells. That's the easiest way to synergize with Pia Nalaar. These are the modern red card draw spells where we exile a bunch of cards and then we get to play those cards from exile. But there are some other ways to synergize with her that are quite fun. Flipping a battle, you do technically cast the back half of the battle from exile. So with that, you can also get a Thopter token from Pia Nalaar. And then with creatures that have adventures, if you cast the adventure first, you put them into exile, then you cast the creature from exile later. That is another way to synergize with Pia Nalaar's ability. There are some other mechanics that synergize with Pia Nalaar, but none that have particularly powerful cards on Arena, like Foretell. We have a couple Foretell cards in here. None of these are incredible, but you do foretell the card and then cast it from exile, which is great. And for some mechanics that we don't have any cards in here of, there's a Rebound. That is a really inherently powerful mechanic, but the only Rebound card on Arena is the flicker effect. You exile one of your cards and then you return it to the battlefield, and this deck doesn't have a ton of enter the battlefield effects, so if we wanted to play that, it would just be to protect Pia Nalaar. So if you don't know, Rebound is the mechanic that lets you recast that spell from exile the turn after you play it, so that would also trigger Pia Nalaar. But again, nothing great with Rebound to run in the deck. So those are the primary mechanics, the primary ways to use Pia Nalaar to get those Thopters on the board. Once you get those Thopters on the board, you're just going to beat your opponent down with a bunch of little flying artifact creatures. So we have some cards like Chief of the Foundry and Steel Overseer to make those flyers bigger. We have some big cards like Saphara Sky's Blade that we could cast for a lot cheaper if we have enough Thopters on the board. We are trying to use those Thopters in some way or the other to help us kill our opponent and win the game off attacking with a lot of them. Hellrider, another great way to do that. So that's the general game plan, the general deck idea. Just drop some mana ramp or some card draw early, drop down Pia Nalaar, and start amassing a horde of Thopters to defeat our opponent with. But now that we've got the gist of the deck out of the way, let's take a look at the full 99 for anybody interested in that. Starting off, we have Mox Amber, which is a Historic Brawl and Commander staple for any deck where your commander is like 3 or less mana. Esper Sentinel, another absolute staple for any white deck in the format, as a pretty good card draw engine, or just taxing your opponent can be pretty powerful as well. Fairy Guidemother lets us create a Thopter and a 1/1 flying fairy if we cast the Guidemother from exile after using the Gift of the Fae. I think this is the weakest adventure in this deck. This would be the first card I would cut for something else. Giant Killer is a much stronger adventure, giving us some main deckable removal for creatures with power 4 or greater. And then we get a nice little tapper on the board, and again, because we can put this creature out on an adventure and then cast it from exile, it synergizes with our commander pretty well. Legion's Landing is a staple for aggressive white decks, any white decks that can create a bunch of creatures early in the game, because if you can flip this, for 1 mana you get a 1/1 lifelinker and a land, so it's like a really, really nice cheap way for white decks to mana ramp if they're aggressive enough, and I think our commander here producing multiple creature tokens is a pretty good place to fit a Legion's Landing into the deck. Swords to Plowshares is a staple as just a great removal spell. Mishra's Research Desk is a nice cheap piece of card draw that also triggers Pia Nalaar, since it is exile card draw. Lightning Bolt is more cheap removal, cheap interaction. Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer, probably a red staple in the format in general, but also synergizes quite well with Pia Nalaar because we're going to be exiling cards from our opponent's library, and until the end of our turn we can cast those cards. That is casting a spell from exile, so that would trigger our commander, giving us a 1/1 flying Thopter. We've got Hope of Ghirapur in here for flavor reasons, and because it's a Thopter, which is really cute to work with the Thopters having haste thing. This isn't the best card ever, and it doesn't work the greatest with this deck, but it is cute to give us a little bit of that Thopter synergy. There's also a Hangerback Walker in here for some more Thopter synergy. A nice big way to dump all our mana late game if we've run out of things to do. We've got March of Otherworldly Light for another staple white removal spell, and March of Reckless Joy for a red exile draw spell to work with Pia Nalaar again. At 2 mana, Fateful Absence, another staple removal spell. Horn of Valhalla is one of the better adventures in this deck because we are already kind of a token deck where we're spitting out a bunch of Thopters. So the Horn itself, giving equipped creature +1/+1 for each creature you control, could already be a decent equipment. And when you add Yeastguard's Call, or however you pronounce that adventure there, this can be really, really powerful because we can make a bunch of soldiers, then cast the Horn of Valhalla next turn. When we do that, we get a Thopter from Pia Nalaar, and then we can just slam dunk equip this on that Thopter and make it gigantic. So really cool stuff from the Horn. Shepherd of the Flock is a great cheap adventure. For only 1 mana, we bounce one of our permanents back to our hands to protect it from removal. And then for 2 mana, we get a 3/1 that we're casting from exile. Abrade is a staple red piece of interaction, very cheap, very flexible. Dark Dweller Oracle is super sweet in this kind of deck because we can spend 1 mana, sacrifice a creature, exile the top card of our library, and play it this turn. With that ability, with Thopters on the board, we have expendable fodder, and if we play whatever we exile, we just get the Thopter right back on board from Pia Nalaar's ability, so really cool card draw engine for this deck. Direfleet Daredevil is a nice, cheap, aggressive creature that later in the game lets us cast an instant or sorcery from our opponent's graveyard by exiling it and then casting it, which does trigger Pia Nalaar. Embereth Shieldbreaker is our main deck artifact removal. That is another creature with an adventure. Magmatic Channeler is more exile card draw. Reckless Impulse is more exile card draw. Rimrock Knight, another cheap adventure to cast from exile. Rob the Archives is exile card draw that gets better if we can sacrifice a 1/1, and this deck should be loaded with them with those 1/1 Thopter tokens. Robber of the Rich is another one of these cards that can cast spells from our opponent's deck, which is from exile technically. We exile them and then cast them, so Robber of the Rich triggers our commander as well. Ren's Resolve for more exile card draw, Rip Apart for more cheap, flexible interaction, and then a few mana dorks here, or mana rocks, Arcane Signet, Mind Stone, and Ornithopter of Paradise. The really cute thing about Ornithopter of Paradise in this deck is it is another Thopter, so if we draw it later in the game, when we already have Pia Nalaar on board, then it will hit the board with haste, because all of our Thopters have haste, not just our Thopter tokens, so that kind of makes the Ornithopter cost only 1 mana on later turn, because we can immediately tap it to get one of the 2 mana we spent on it out of it. So just a cute little mini synergy there. We've got Steel Overseer, which is great when we've got a wide board of Thopter tokens. This puts a +1/+1 counter onto every artifact creature we control, making our whole board larger. Every single turn, basically, just by tapping it. Then we have Master Trinketeer, another card that is great with a wide board state of Thopters, buffing them all up. It's also a mana sink to make a bunch of servos, but primarily going to be buffing our flying Thopters. Welcoming Vampire is going to let us draw an extra card every turn because we're going to be making at least 1 Thopter on average every turn, triggering the Welcoming Vampire's ability. Adeline Resplendent Cathar is just great for any go-wide white decks, any decks with a ton of creatures or a ton of tokens, and this is definitely one of those archetypes. Ardenvale Tactician, another creature that we can have that flexible adventure, and if we do cast the adventure and then cast the creature later, we'll get another Thopter. Skyclave Apparition is great interaction, an absolute staple in white decks. Birji, God of Storytelling, is mainly in here for Harnfell Horn of Bounty as another exile card draw engine, but the front half is pretty decent as well, letting us dump our hand pretty efficiently by getting a 1-mana rebate on every spell that we cast. Bonecrusher Giant, one of the best creatures with adventures pretty much ever printed. Just that 2-mana stomp, really efficient interaction, and then a 3-mana 4/3, also just a pretty good rate, so both halves of the card are pretty awesome. Breya's Apprentice is super sweet in this deck, because Breya's Apprentice is going to give us a Thopter immediately, which with Pia Nalaar might have haste, and give us a built-in way to start sacrificing Thopters to exile more cards and let us play those cards. So once again, Breya's Apprentice, very similar to the Dark Dweller Oracle, where we can sacrifice a Thopter to exile a card, and then if we end up playing that card, we just get the Thopter token right back. Demon Bolt is a removal spell that we could foretell to put it into exile, then recast it later from exile for a cheaper cost. And then also, because we'd be casting it from exile, we'd be getting a 1/1 flyer, so pretty sweet there. Lelia is super sweet, very heavy synergies with our commander, where Lelia also benefits from exiling a bunch of cards from our deck. So Lelia is going to exile the top card of our library and let us play it till end of turn every time they attack. And then whenever our cards are getting exiled, we're getting a +1/+1 counter onto them. So super sweet in multiple ways, where they're going to help trigger Pia Nalaar, and they're going to get bigger every time we're exiling with other spells. Light Up the Stage is one of the cheapest red draw spells, because we can often cast this for only 1 mana off of the Spectacle cost, and again, because it's a red card draw spell, it is an exile draw spell to synergize with our commander. For flavor reasons and for gameplay reasons, we have Pia Nalaar to go with Pia Nalaar Consul of Revival. They're going to create a 1/1 flying Thopter when they hit the board and give us a mana sink to buff our artifact creatures or sacrifice them to stop blockers. So pretty heavy synergies with the deck that can produce a lot of cheap little Thopter artifact creatures. We've got Professional Facebreaker, which is really nice in this deck because with our Thopter tokens we can consistently hit our opponent for damage, consistently get treasure tokens, then later on we can start sacking those treasure tokens to again get that red impulse draw, that exile draw, and trigger our commander. Witty Roastmaster can damage our opponent every time we're making any creature hit the board, including those Thopter tokens. This is a card that's way better in full-on commander than Historic Brawl. Maybe it's not even that good in 1v1, where this is one of the first cards we should maybe swap out, but I am very partial to this card because I have a paper commander deck based around Hazazon, the Shaper of Sands, the new version, where you get 2 1/1s every time you play a desert. So you can just spit out so many tokens so quickly with the Roastmaster and burn all of your opponents in commander. So this is a sweet addition to this deck if you're building it for paper commander. And I do build all of my Historic Brawl decks with paper exclusive cards. I don't use any alchemy nonsense, anything you can only get on Arena, because I like playing paper commander and I like the idea of being able to build any of these decks if I enjoy them enough on Arena in paper. And for that reason, Roastmaster, a sweet card for bridging that gap if you wanted to play this in a 4-player format like Commander in Paper Magic. Having a few cards like Roastmaster that deal damage to each opponent can help a lot. That being said, as I said before, not the craziest thing in 1v1, but still a fun little card. Nahiri's Warcrafting is really nice. It's going to give us another piece of removal that works as card draw as well, and it's that exile card draw, so it also works with our commander, so really flexible card there, very powerful one. Chief of the Foundry is another card to buff all of our Thopters to beat our opponent down more quickly. Glorious Protector is another card we can foretell and then cast from exile, triggering our commander when we do. Mondrak Glory Dominus can double up the amount of tokens that we're producing while putting another creature on the board when we play this. I'm not running like Anointed Procession or anything because I think we want to just keep getting aggressive and keep playing creatures every turn. With Mondrak, we get to play another creature and still double up our token production. With Anointed Procession, it's like a 4-mana enchantment that does the same thing, which is cool, but a bit too slow for 1v1 in an aggressive deck. But again, if you were playing a paper commander deck, you could absolutely throw an Anointed Procession in here as well to get even more token doubling going on. We've got Starnheim Unleashed for another incredible spell we can cast from exile, thanks to that Foretell ability. Invasion of Kaldheim is one of the biggest and best ways to synergize with Pia Nalaar, because this just has 3 different ways that it synergizes with our commander, which is absolutely absurd. So we cast Invasion of Kaldheim, exile our hand, draw that many cards, and then we can start playing those cards from exile. That's immediately great with our commander because we can cast this, then we can play our land from turn from exile, then we can cast some more cheap spells that we exiled. So we could get 2 or maybe 3 Thopters off of this in one turn immediately. And then with those hasty Thopters from Pia Nalaar, we could immediately attack this battle, deal the 4 damage to it, and flip it. Once we flip it, we're casting it from exile. Then we get another Thopter because we just played another spell from exile. And then we have a full new grip of cards in our hand, thanks to the Invasion of Kaldheim drawing us that new hand. So we probably have some extra lands in there that we can now discard to use as removal spells, 2 damage to any target. And when we're doing that, we're exiling more cards from the top of our library that we can then play the turn that we exile them. So this card is just an absolute banger. This is the one card in the deck that I would say is just non-negotiable. This goes into every single Pia Nalaar Consul of Revival deck that is ever built because it is so perfect with this commander. Next up we have Atsushi the Blazing Sky is a nice aggressive dragon. It also works with the exile synergies when it dies. Chandra Torch of Defiance is an excellent flexible planeswalker that can give us mana or be a removal spell or give us card draw. That is also, once again, exile card draw. Hellrider is going to be damaging our opponent for every creature we're attacking with. So if we attack with 3 Thopters, instead of doing 3 damage, we do 6 damage now thanks to Hellrider, which is huge. Tectonic Giant is a decent little boss monster kind of thing. A 3/4 is a pretty sturdy creature, and it's going to trigger the exile card draw every single time it attacks. Showdown of the Scalds is one of Boros's best card draw options in general, and again, it's the exile card draw to go with the commander. This also gets to dump a bunch of +1/+1 counters on our creatures as we're casting a bunch of spells, which is sweet. Terror of the Peaks is basically just a red commander and Historic Brawl staple at this point, because it's pretty hard to have a deck that doesn't synergize really well with this. With our deck, we're going to be making a bunch of Thopters, so we get to get a bunch of instances of 1 damage to deal to any target. So we get to really just ping things wherever we want with Terror of the Peaks' enter the battlefield abilities. We've got Urabrask Heretic Praetor, which is another one of these cards that lets us cast cards and play lands from exile. Then we have Nalfeshni, the only 6-drop in the deck, because I like having a really low curve in this deck, but I could not resist putting Nalfeshni in here, because with Nalfeshni, if we do end up casting a spell from exile, we get to copy that spell. We do have to sack it at the end step if it's a permanent spell, but being able to double up everything we cast, even if it is temporarily, is just super sweet and could make some really explosive things happen late in the game. And then last but not least, the only 7-mana card in the deck is Sephara Sky's Blade, which is a card we're never actually casting for 7 mana. We're ideally casting this for 1 mana once we have 4 Thopters on the board, because then we can just tap 4 of them and spend 1 mana to get a 7/7 flying lifelink on the board. Already great, but it's also going to give all of our flying creatures indestructible. So now all of our Thopter tokens are indestructible. Our opponent can basically never hit us until they kill Saphara Sky's Blade. Otherwise, we've got a gigantic board of indestructible 1/1 flying blockers, and we can just start chipping in with however many we don't need to block with. So Saphara, pretty sweet card at the top end. Outside of that, we've got a pretty standard mana base here. All of the staples. I would run one of every on-color channel land, and that's what we're doing here with Sokenzan and Eiganjo. One of every on-color Eldraine land, Castle Ardenvale, and Castle Embereth. Castle Embereth being one that's particularly good in this deck. And then all of the best dual lands, Battlefield Forge, Clifftop Retreat, Fairy Calm Snarl, Inspiring Vantage, Needleverge Pathways, Sacred Foundry, Sundown Pass. Outside of that, there's Command Tower, goes into every multicolored deck, and the two cards that are not just complete staples that would go into every single red-white deck are Spire of Industry. This is solid mana fixing for any deck that will consistently have an artifact on board. This deck definitely will. Our commander makes 1/1 Thopters, and we have a decent amount of artifacts just in the main deck as well. So this is basically a second copy of Battlefield Forge in this deck, where it always taps for colorless. As long as we have an artifact, it can also tap for red or white. And last but not least, Inventor's Fair is our one kind of utility land that can just sit there gaining us life every turn more often than not when we've got 3 or more artifacts on board, so once we've got some Thopters down. But then we can also use this to search our library for any artifact later in the game. So it can pull out a Steel Overseer or a Chief of the Foundry, something like that, to buff all of our Thopters, get a bunch of extra damage in. Or if we just need a really big mana sink, we could search for a Hangerback Walker to dump a ton of mana into. Or if we need card draw, we can search for Brea's Apprentice to start exiling cards and drawing cards off of them. So very flexible land that works as kind of a demonic tutor sort of spell late in the game. So that is a look at every single card in the deck. It's a very exciting, very unique archetype. It's super fun to play, and I just can't wait to show you how this deck operates. So without further ado, let's just get into some gameplay. Alright, here we are versus Shanna Purifying Blade, which is going to be a life gain commander that can give you a bunch of card draw based on the amount of life that you have gained. So it'll be an interesting matchup here. They potentially have a lot of card draw. We potentially have a lot of card draw as well from all of our exile spells. I think this hand is keepable. It's not excellent mana-wise without a white source naturally. We are going to have to use the Ornithopter of Paradise to get there. But the Ornithopter can also ramp us up into the Invasion of Kaldheim and some other stuff, which is sweet. And we have now drawn a white source naturally. I'm going to play Ornithopter of Paradise first. I could play Pia Nalaar, because one of the cute things you can do is give the Ornithopter of Paradise haste with Pia, but I think I'd rather have 4 mana available ASAP. And then try to get like 1 hasty mana tap out of the Ornithopter. Do I play anything here? Probably drop Steel Overseer. Able to put counters on my Ornithopter of Paradise as well as all of my 1/1 Thopters. Really trying to set up for a powerful Invasion of Kaldheim pretty soon. That's going to draw us a ton of cards, get us some Thopters. So I could Invasion of Kaldheim right now. And then I get to play a Gonjo and Fairy Guidemother, get 2 Thopters and Steel Overseer for a counter on both. Let's just go for it. Seems plenty strong to me. Boom, and boom. And I could immediately flip the invasion as well, because I'll get a counter on all my artifact creatures. And they have haste. So that'll also be cast from exile, because it is a battle. So we'll get another Thopter. And then I could do 2 to any target by discarding a land. I could only play the cards this turn, but I could discard 2 lands to kill their commander. Oh my god. Oh my god. Well, This commander seems pretty strong. With the right hand. Invasion of Kaldheim, good grief. What a card for this deck. That was an incredible turn 4. Alright, and our opponent straight up left the game after that turn, and I can't really blame them there. That was absolutely absurd stuff from Pia Nalaar. Here we are against Imoti, Celebrant of Bounty. 5 mana, 3/1 with Cascade, and when they cast cards with mana value 6 or greater, those also have Cascade. Very sweet new commander from March Machine Aftermath as well. This one, actually from the original March Machine, it's from the reprint list, the Multiverse Legends. I think it was first printed in some kind of commander set, Commander Legends or something probably. But very fun card for like a green-blue ramp deck. Yeah, just play a bunch of ramp spells like Into the North, and then start dropping a bunch of high mana value cards. So let's... I mean, Pia Nalaar is not going to be doing anything. The only exiled card we have is the Horn of Valhalla, so let's actually just get mana for now. Drop Ornithopter of Paradise. All Thopters all day, let's go. Hope of Gearper into Ornithopter of Paradise. It's beautiful. Nylea Keen-Eyed is the play. Their creatures cost 1 less. It's pretty good when most of their creatures are going to be 6 mana or greater with Imoti. Also try to draw some creatures with the 3 mana ability. Not bad. Not bad at all. 4 mana up now. There's nothing to rip apart, nothing to Fateful Absence, so let's just get 2 1/1s. And now I'll have at least 1 card to play from exile after I play my commander to get a Flying Thopter. There's Imoti. Let's see what they cascade into. Immediately hit something. It's Guardian Project. That is really, really good with Cascade. Because it hits the board before the creature resolves. So it hits the board, then the creature hits the board, then they draw a card. And all of their other creatures they're playing and cascading into will also let them draw a card. 5 mana available. I can play Trinketer and our commander, but then I don't play any Thopters this turn. I think that's fine. Next turn I play the Horn and equip it to something. I could also rip apart the commander, but the problem with that is they can just play a land and recast them and cascade again, which is still pretty strong. Probably weaker than them playing a 6 mana card and cascading, but is strong. Let's... I don't love this, but let's rip apart. I could also destroy the Guardian Project. But they're already going to draw plenty of cards just from cascading every time. Let's hit Imoti. Hit them with everybody. I guess I could sack the Hope of Gearper just in case they cascade into a non-creature, then they can't cast that, but still feel like they could probably cascade into a creature. Well, they cascaded into a non-creature and it's a triple green one, which means Nylea's active now. And it also draws them a card when they're playing creatures. Oh my god, Invasion of Kaldheim is such a good card. Alright, that rip apart did not work out well at all. Because now I can't rip apart Tribute. I think I play Pia. We need to just go in the sky now. Play Pia. Play... Oh, thank you, Auto Tapper. Thank you for tapping Ornithopter of Paradise instead of Spire. I was going to attack with Ornithopter of Paradise in the sky here. But Auto Tapper would rather not tap my colorless land on the colorless spell. Time Warp. Cascade off a Galta. Alright, there's a Gore Claw as well. Draw a million cards. Invasion of Zendikar. Get a couple more lands. They're completely tapped out though with nothing with reach. For some reason Nylea doesn't have reach. Kind of strange. They're at 15 life and we have 5 damage on the board. Horn of Valhalla can add a lot to that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 is not lethal. I think I Invasion of Kaldheim then. Get a Thopter. We're gonna destroy a creature here. Kind of want to not die to a Galta, so maybe. I think everything else can hit me. Almost rather Mind Stone. No, I should probably kill Galta. Get another Thopter. Can hit them for 8, or I can flip this invasion and still hit them for 4, which I think is better. They're down to 11. Get another Thopter from flipping the Pyre. Now I can deal 2 to something by discarding a card. If I shoot Imoti, then they have a guaranteed way to cast that and Cascade, but the odds of them not having a mana value 6 or greater card in hand are so low. I think I should shoot Imoti. And I feel like even without Hope of Gearper, I almost definitely... still kill them if I get another turn, so let's make it so they can't cast non-creatures. So at least they can't play another Alrund's Epiphany style Time Walk or Time Warp or something. They can just only play creatures this turn. So that it has to be like reach creatures and stuff. They can't even play like Destroy All Flyers or anything. Bounce all creatures. None of that stuff unless it's instant speed. Alright, they scoop them up. Can't play any non-creature spells and they don't have enough reach creatures in hand to survive another turn. That was a sweet matchup. 2 of the new commanders to Arena. This has been around a while in paper, but very cool commander. Yeah. Cool match. Just get in there with the Flyers in the end against the green Beat Sticks deck. Here we are now against Etali, Primal, Conqueror. Basically just ramp till you hit 7 and then win the game. Is how Etali goes. I gotta take the free mulligan here with no red source and a ton of red cards. This is much more doable. We'll keep this hand and go from there. Let's start with turn 1 Legion's Landing and pass the turn. Inventor's Fair is the draw. I think I'm going to hope they play a Mana Dork so I can Bonecrusher Giant it. I want to have some cards in exile before I drop Pia. I don't really want to try to go Pia into Laelia here. I want to have the interaction to kill some Mana Dorks if they play some, to keep them off Etali as long as possible. It is not a Mana Dork. Still want to just get the Bonecrusher Giant into exile. I'm not going to hold 2 mana up for the rest of the game. I was just hoping to see a mana dork there. It's fine though, we'll still get some good setup for Pia Nalaar later. With Lelia here. Unfortunately hit a land. Well, I guess that's fine, because the only card in our whole deck we could have cast if we hit it there was the Mox Amber. Yeah, unfortunate I didn't get my 1 out of 99 chance there. Getting my Mox Amber. I guess I could technically cast Walking Ballista. Or whatever that is called. Hangerback Walker. Where X equals 0 and just put it right into the graveyard. Off of Lelia. Ooh, there's their own Bonecrusher Giant. Alright, there's a land, but I'd rather play a land off Lelia. Dang, I don't like how Lelia is just going to trade into their Bonecrusher, but there's not much I can do about it. And I could Ardenvale Tactician, but then I don't play my commander, which feels bad. Actually might be okay. I can just pretend Lelia is my commander this game. Take 2 damage to the face. But by doing this, I make it so I don't have to do anything about Bonecrusher Giant next turn, because Lelia will attack as a 5/5, which is bigger than the Bonecrusher. Ooh. Get another +1/+1 counter on Lelia by discarding a card to Magmatic Channeler. Alright, Tireless Tracker. They get to get a clue token every time they play a land, which they can sacrifice to draw a card and put a counter on the Tireless Tracker. Strong card. Let's exile cards first. I'm gonna keep the land. Goodbye, Glorious Protector. Oh, wow. Play that card this turn only. Could play Commander and Trinketer. I don't know if this is actually better than Urabrask, but it is strong. But yeah, I mean, Urabrask might have been better here. Let's actually attack all 3 to flip Legion's Landing. Get a chump attack in there. They're probably going to double block and kill Lelia. They do not double block and kill Lelia. They go for some kills on the token. There's an invasion of Zendikar, ramping them up towards that Etali. But the lands are going to hit the board tapped. That is a boatload of clues for them. They're at the 7 mana now, but I think it's probably taken too long. So we can play Ardenvale Tactician and Bonecrusher. Attack for 1,000,000. I should have used Channeler first. Could have maybe hit something better, but Horn of Valhalla is really strong if I don't manage to kill them this turn. They go for the kill on like Master Trinketer. They take 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, well over lethal. Yeah. So they're just going to scoop them up because the only block where they maybe survive is blocking Lelia there, in which case they take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They go to 1 life. They could have survived and went to 1, but that is the best they could have done there. All right. Great stuff from Pia Nalaar outracing the Etali deck. Mainly because they didn't play any mana dorks. They just played some decent dorks of other varieties, some card draw dorks, removal dorks, stuff like that. If they played a bunch of mana dorks, they could have still just dropped Etali early on us and probably still done some wild stuff. But yeah, super wide board state, super quickly, nice and aggressive stuff. Gonna find us the win against the slower deck there. Alright, here we are on the play against the new Niv-Mizzet from March the Machine Aftermath. 5 mana, 5/5 flying, hexproof from monocolored, gives all their instants and sorceries in graveyard jumpstart if they are exactly 2 colors, so you do have to build around it, but gives most of the instants and sorceries in your grave jumpstart. Pretty cool new commander. Let's start with the plains so that I have Swords to Plowshares up immediately, but I doubt I'm using it immediately. Okay. I don't really have a way to use 4 mana on turn 3, so I'm just going to lead with our commander. This way I have a creature that could actually connect with Professional Facebreaker. Get the treasure tokens flowing. And potentially use those to get some exile going with Pia Nalaar. There's the Celestis, so they're setting up their 5-color mana base, as you do. Sundown Pass. Okay, I think I exile with Facebreaker here. Anything 4 mana or less I could play. Arnveil Tactician. It's 3 mana. I could go Ornithopter Paradise thanks to the haste. Still cast that. Get the Thopter. Get a treasure. Scry 1 off Temple of Enlightenment, so they've got 4 mana up this turn. They do have a World Tree, so if they hit 7 lands, 6 lands, then all of their lands are perfect mana. There is the removal for Professional Facebreaker, RIP. Yeah, I could have sacked the treasure in response, but it's only till the end of this turn, so that wouldn't have done anything for me. Okay. Drop a Magmatic Channeler, just hold on to Giant Killer and all this interaction. Poke, 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 they're down to 14. You know what, I guess I can't actually use any of our removal on Niv-Mizzet because of the hexproof from monocolored. But if they end up playing any other creatures, we've got that very covered. So Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, hits the board, draws them a card, and untaps 2 lands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Not quite lethal, but feels like I'm not going to get great lightning bolt targets, so I'm just going to shoot the face right now, so I can have all my mana up next turn. Tectonic Giant, that's a sweet one. Okay, Magmatic Channeler, can we hit some goodies? Gotta get rid of the Giant Killer, keep swords. Just much more flexible. Demon Bolt, Welcoming Vampire. Sure, we'll go Welcoming Vampire then. Instead of Tectonic Giant. Get another flyer and another card draw engine, just like the Giant is. But this one's flying. Oh, I've got the Ornithopter. I completely forgot about that. I have Ornithopter Paradise, so I can just cast both. You just hope they don't have a board wipe. Tyrant Scorn, destroy Pia Nalaar. Fair. Fair enough. R.I.P. Pia. R.I.P. P. Alright, Tectonic Giant, come on down. I could play around a board wipe, but I'm not gonna.
Keep up the pace.
And there's Chromatic Lantern, so all of their lands tap for a mana of any color. And it's another mana rock, so they have 4 mana up here. They could have that 4 mana Solar Blaze or whatever. Everything deals damage to itself equal to its power. They've got a Maelstrom Pulse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 damage on board. If they don't have a 3 mana or less removal spell at instant speed, then they're dead, and it looks like they do not. They are going to scoop them up. So the reason that I was mentioning Solar Blaze and not like Sunfall or some mono-colored removal spell is because it seems like they're probably playing all 2-colored instants and sorceries to go with that Niv-Mizzet. So they'd need a 2-color Wrath. Time Wipe is another one. Return 1 creature to your hand and then destroy everything. That's a blue-white card. Supreme Verdict is the blue-white board wipe that can't be countered. Bunch of stuff they could have had there. But luckily for us, they did not have any of it. We are now against a Vorinclex, which is just mono green beat sticks. Just a 5 mana 6/6 trample reach. And it draws them 2 forests when they play it. And when they hit 8 mana, they can just mill 10, put 2 big creatures on the board, and then put a bunch of counters on them and have them fight everywhere. Very classic, very green stuff. Just going to cast Pia Nalaar immediately against a mono green deck. They should have a lot less ways to kill her, so we can dump her early, easily. Esper Sentinel doing its thing, giving us some great value there. Drawing us a card when they play that Arcane Signet. I could just Abrade the Signet, but I think I'd rather just play a 4/3 and get aggressive while they don't have any creatures out. Ronus's Monument. Do we get to draw a card off that? This makes all their green creatures cheaper. Yep. Solid for mono green for sure. They also give something +2/+2 trample every turn. Okay, they are going to pay that mana. So now get a Haste Thopter here by dropping Rimrock Knight from exile pre-combat. Attacking with everybody past the turn. They're down to 11. There's the Gala Greeters. They get a treasure token whenever they play a creature, or a +1/+1 counter, or gain 2 life. They get to play the Greeters and Vorinclex off Ronus's Monument. Very nice mana reduction for them there. And they get double Forest. Pass the turn. Alright, well, I can kill the Greeters. I can't kill the Vorinclex. Killing the Greeters might be enough, though. Let's see what Research Desk hits first. God of Storytelling and a Horn of Valhalla. Neither of these are cheap enough to be castable. Right now, they're both playable till the end of our next turn, though. Just go for the Horn of Valhalla. That can get a lot of extra damage in. But I think I am going to Abrade the Gala Greeters and attack with everybody. They kill the 4/3, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Down to 4. Cavalier of Thorns is the play. Big, beefy reach blocker. Puts another land onto the board. Untapped, even. Into a Leafkin Druid. This Ronus's Monument's really popping off. Maybe I should have just abraded the Monument. Okay, Plains off the top is excellent, because now I could Apparition. think there's anything to cast from their grave. Nothing good for Direfleet Daredevil. So if I Apparition the Druid, they have 2 blockers total. They block there, take 1, 2, 3, go to 1 life. Feel good. I could also get 2 Thopters if I get a land off Research Desk. Oh, I already played land for turn, never mind. Yeah, no, I think I Apparition. Put them to 1. Or put them to 2. I don't get a Thopter from playing Apparition. That was in my hand, not Exile. Okay, they're at 2. Commander to the command zone, drop a Direfleet Daredevil, so we have another 2-power creature. We're super close. Topiary Stomper from our opponent gets them another land and another blocker. The big plant dinosaur. And then a Vorinclex for another blocker, so they've got 4 blockers. Okay. Can play Adeline here and attack with 5 creatures, put them to 1. Doesn't quite get there. Let's see if Research Desk can find Lightning Bolt or something. Oh, Shield Breaker's not horrible. Finally blow up the monument. It's a bit late now, but still. Blow up the monument and get another creature. Yep. I can cast Adventures off Research Desk. That's sweet. I guess I don't have to do that right now. Could wait a turn and then do it when I have Pia Nalaar on board. 1, 2, 3, 4. I need to hit another land though to do that. I think I'm just going to do this now. Because I kind of want to do Surprise Adeline. Because it's like an extra attacker immediately. We just need to find a board state where we end up with 2 more attackers than they have blockers. And with Adeline, we add an extra attacker the turn we play Adeline, just instantaneously. With Pia Nalaar on board, we also add extra attackers immediately, potentially. If they miss on the first chapter here, that could be bad. Well, I mean, it could be great for us. It could be bad for them. Because they're going to mill 10 and then get 2 creatures from the milled cards. Should be really hard for them not to hit 2 creatures off of 10 cards, but we'll see. If they only hit 1 creature, they're dead. Okay, they hit 2 creatures. They get big dorks. Gotta find some kind of haste creature. Close this out. If they attack with any of their non-vigilant creatures, we might also be able to kill them. Lotus Cobra for another creature, alright. Probably seals the deal for us. Attack with the vigilant threats. And the Vorinclex, because that forces me to chump one of the vigilant cards to not die, because that'd be 28 damage. So that would leave me with 1 less attacker next turn. And we're all in on drawing a burn spell. There's actually several burn spells. It's not just Lightning Bolt. But I think the other ones wouldn't work here, because most of them are damaging creatures. Or there's something like Invasion of Call time where I have to flip it first and then I get to do burn spells. The Swords to Plowshares isn't enough here, I think. Because they're just going to gain 1,000,000 life for whatever we exile. We're not going to be able to kill them through their current board state. And we're still not going to be able to survive next turn because they can just fight our entire board off with the Grand Evolution. Yep. That'll do it. Well, that was a look at Pia Nalaar, Consul of Revival. I think she's a really fun commander. There's a lot of cool things you can do with her, and it only gets more interesting and full-on paper commander as always. You can do the Witty Roastmaster kind of chains and stuff, and there's plenty of cards that aren't on Arena that are pretty fun synergies with her. You get access to a lot more rebound cards and stuff like that, so really cool new commander. Definitely recommend trying her out, building around with her a little bit. Yeah, and I hope you enjoyed checking out that commander as much as I did, because that was definitely my cup of tea. I like unique commanders that don't really play out like any other commanders, and I also just love artifact commanders. There's two things I love. If there's a commander that gets me to do things I don't usually do, which is like, all right, make a deck built around playing things from exile, and then if there's a commander that lets me play around with artifacts, those are the two things I love. So like Brutaclad is awesome because I get to play around with artifacts and I get to do it in a way different than usual. And with Pia Nalaar, it's very similar. I get to play around with some artifact Thopter tokens and do it in a way that's much different than usual, playing a bunch of cards from exile. But yeah, I had a really fun time, and I hope you all enjoyed this commander as much as I did. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons very much for supporting the channel, as well as you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you would like to see more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. Other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.